Hey, we're back on Beach Channel Live. I'm Jason Kesser talking about arts and culture in Miami. Today, I brought a really special musician that I'm going to nerd out for really hard. So I want everybody to just be prepared for that. This is Timothy LaRoque, who's a singer-songwriter, has an incredible band I hope we'll get to hear about, and now has written like a couple of my favorite new songs. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
The
Jason.
Nerd Fest has already begun. I'm
The
so
kind
sorry.
words have commenced.
First and foremost, I got to get out of the way. It's going to be kind of awkward. There's a couple of people, especially when you do John Lennon covers, are going to say that you sound like John. Are you okay with like Lennon comparisons and compliments?
I am completely okay with that. I am such a huge Beatles fan that I can only take it as a compliment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Lennon specifically. I heard you do two covers.
Mhm.
Your original songs are the most important thing to me,
Thank you.
and that's what we'll be talking about. But the covers were pretty bang up. So you
Appreciate
did a Lennon cover of "Jealous Guy."
Mm-hmm.
Um, like tit for tat comparison, like it could have been AI, but with passion. What do you have to say about that, dude? How has Lennon and the Beatles influenced you?
So, the Beatles have been a big driving force in me making music and loving music. Really, the Beatles and John Lennon, whenever I think about even just music of the 60s, 70s, my dad, and I think about my family, and we all kind of grew up listening to that, even though I'm 24. But my dad really put us on to a lot of good stuff. So whenever I think of the Beatles, I think about singing in the car with my brothers, and it just influences me because I love music. It really helped me love music and become who I am. You know what I mean? So
Do you feel like that time with your family, like being musical and singing? Did you happen to learn any like harmony skills or anything like that as a kid?
I think a big part of why I kind of might sound like him at times is because I was singing his songs, trying to, you know, imitate his voice. Maybe like imitate, but I'm just trying to. I want to sound like John. You know, when I sing covers, I want to sound like the person who it is. You know, and I think it's cool to put your own little sauce on it. But for me, I'm always trying to stay real close to the cover because just out of respect for it and the artist.
And it, you do have a cover. You do have a Harrison cover.
Hmm.
It's "What Is Life."
Yeah.
So I'm actually a huge Beatles fan, and I didn't really know that song.
Hmm.
I made the mistake of hearing your version first, and then I realized once I listened to Harrison's version, yeah, I do know that song. Like it's
Hmm.
back in the deep recesses of my mind.
Hmm.
When I heard them together, you produced that song beautifully. Like
Thank you very much.
and it's shameless because on the actual like logo of the song, there's a green apple.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So you didn't pull any, like, you weren't pulling wool over anybody's eyes.
No, I was like, I'm paying homage to George Harrison. For me, I grew up collecting 45s, so I replicated that 45, the Apple sleeve, and that's a big part of why I make music too, because there's so many fascinating aspects of music, whether it's the physical media, whether it's like CDs, records, and I grew up collecting records, so it's little tiny things like that. Like I can make an art cover, so let me get creative and
Yeah, I'm
do that.
just looking at the logo, like I almost wanted to like physically have it, and then it would have
Hmm.
been you like doing a really amazing version of a George Harrison song.
Thank you.
I encourage everybody to listen to it. And
Shout
when
out my
they
uncle Rob. Just gotta say that.
wait, why
My
Rob?
uncle Rob Arthur. He is the one who produced my. Here, I'm gonna draw a little attention to this. This is my CD that has "What Is Life" on it, and he produced this whole thing out in Hendersonville, Tennessee,
Yeah,
right?
Hendersonville, North Carolina.
No, Tennessee. My
In
bad.
Tennessee?
I was about to say
Damn.
Hendersonville, Nashville.
All right,
but
we got to
that's
take a
not.
road trip, bro.
Okay,
You just
let's
flew
go.
in from Texas today, right?
I did,
All right,
yeah.
we got to get on another plane or in a car and go out there and figure out where Hendersonville is. That's messed up.
If
I
you're
thought it was in
driving.
North Carolina.
No, no.
Oh, damn.
If you're driving, I'm about it.
Official apologies to both Tennessee and North Carolina on behalf of Timothy LaRoque and the Beach Channel. Anyway,
I'm really sorry.
you you should be. Anybody who goes to your Spotify, they're gonna see they're gonna see an EP that you dropped, I think back in 2022.
Yes.
I think it's like 5 or 6 songs.
Yes. So it's
Tell me
5
about
on
that.
streaming services, but if you get the CD, it has the 6th track, which is What Is Life.
You got to get the CD then. How
Hmm.
would people buy your CD if they wanted to?
You can go on Bandcamp. It would be timothylarocque.bandcamp.com. I take that back. It's actually going to be rock and roll, so it's funny. There's a little pun. It's ROQUE and roll, because my last name is LaRoque, LA capital ROQUE. Is a pun. I made it in 7th grade. I think it still stands. I think it's pretty good.
Dude, it
Like
looks
a little
really
pat on the
good
back.
visually. I'm so glad I've never had to explain that to anyone. It takes so long.
It's
When you
really
guys
funny.
look at it, it's just going to say rock and roll, and it makes perfect sense, and it's awesome.
And then people come up to me and they're like, "Hey, rock and roll." It's like, oh, well, you almost had it. It's so close. But
Some of the what are some of your favorite tracks on that album of yours?
really, I think my favorite is a song called "Strangers," which I shot a music video for, and it's actually the cover of that EP itself. So it's me kind of paying homage to Django Reinhardt, and that style.
So I was gonna say, it definitely has like gypsy jazz feels. Squeezing some like awesome harmonic minor like melodies and stuff in there. I think it has a whistling solo. Is that that song?
No, that's
Oh,
not.
that's a different
No,
song.
that's Where You Going.
Okay, okay,
We'll
okay.
get to that.
We'll get back to that. But it's got such a great like gypsy jazz feel. But it's not just pick some gypsy jazz
Yeah.
like chord progression standard and just riff on it.
Yeah.
You created like kind of a really complete, well constructed song. Can you talk about how you wrote that and what your writing process is?
So in the beginning of the song, so for me, we kind of were talking a little bit before this, but it's not reinventing the wheel, but it kind of is. Like for me, I am playing an A minor for the first like 40 seconds of the song, but you don't realize it because I'm playing the root of like the main part of the song, which is D minor. But I'm going D minor to E. So for me, I'm like, oh wow, this seems strange. Like this seems like different. So that kind of gives it the dissonance for. I try to make the music relate to the lyrics as well, or like the overall feeling of the song. So I give it a little funny progression, a little dissonant, and it makes it feel like strangers. You know what I mean? It's when I wrote it,
That's cool. It feels like strangers.
yeah, exactly. It feels it's supposed to, it almost feels like how do I say, what's the black and white, like the Casablanca type thing, you have to hear it for yourself to really know.
I wish we could just stop this interview and play all of your songs back to back so everybody knew. But what you're saying is definitely the vibe that it gave off, and it just sounds like just really good songwriting on top of like really well known familiar tropes. Like when I was listening to your music, I felt like I had already heard it and lived with it for a long time.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that was the vibe I got. That EP you dropped back in 2022.
Yes.
Recently, you dropped a song which is "Where You Going,"
Where you going? Yeah.
and that's a single that is for an EP that's going to come out
Yes.
later this year. So, can you
Yeah.
talk to us about that a bit?
Yeah. Where You Going is the lead single off of my upcoming EP, The Florida Effect. And that song is I am a brother. I am one of 5. I have an older sister and I have 3 younger brothers. And so my sister Nicole put me on to a lot of newer influences. Like I said, my dad put me and my brothers on to 60s, 70s, full classic rock and all that. But my sister put me on to the stuff that was coming out. She grew up, she's 6 years older than me. So she put me on to Iron and Wine. She put me on to Ben Howard. She put me on to Sufjan Stevens. So that song specifically is very inspired by by those influences, I really love all kinds of music. Like I don't have a specific genre. I say good music is good music. You can tell if it's good when you hear it. So for me, I'll write a song that's based on any style of genre if I think it's good. So
You aren't locked into a specific genre. This song does feel really old and really new at the same time. It almost gives me like West Coast and like grizzly bear feels and like stuff like that. Also, everybody that you named, it has like a darkness and a mystery to it. But another skill that you have is to write a happy song, I think, about feeling really bad. Did you know that you have that skill?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Like
I don't
how do
know
you
if you're
take
referencing a certain song, but I'll have you know, I that is a skill that I have because one of my favorite songs that I wrote with my friend Bucci in our first band, The Summit, is called The Shelf, and it's a song basically. It sounds like a car commercial. You know what I mean? Like you're driving down the road, and it's like it's got the tambourine, chicka, 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 chicka. So it's like upbeat, but it's about like I can't take this anymore. Like I don't like the way you treat me, and it's I don't know, cause you can feel however it is, but you just gotta let it out. I had to let it out, so I wrote a song, and I guess I was just feeling like like I don't know if I was feeling happy, but it's just like that's how I wanted to get it across.
Dude, you got the bad out happy. Like that's how you just like shake off demons with a tambourine, man.
Hey,
And
hey, well
it's
that's I love
yeah, it's
that.
working. You said that some of your so beyond the Beatles, you said you had a couple of other influences, and
Definitely,
Paul Simon was one of them. I don't know if
Paul
you can talk
Simon's a
about that.
big guy for
And
me.
you also were saying that you were working with Bob Lind, who is uh,
Big influence on me.
yeah,
Big,
he composed some notable music in the '60s.
yeah.
Can you talk about that real quick?
So for me, yeah, I'm a big as a songwriter myself. I applaud songwriters of all sorts. Like whether it's writing a catchy pop song or whether it's writing a really intimate ballad. There are certain like formulas to making a good song in my opinion. So however you do it is incredible. But when you're able to really articulate yourself and put out beautiful words like poetry, um, that inspires me to do the same. And so Bob Lind is a big guy on and inspiring me. And I've really only been a fan for about a year because I didn't know much about him. But we played at the South Florida Folk and Acoustic Music Festival, and he was headlining, and I got to see him, and he was incredible, and he was very kind, and he saw my set, and he had very kind words to say about it, and we've been good friends since then. Really,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
No, it's not surprising. He probably thought that you had just been like frozen in a block of ice in like 1967 and somehow like reappeared on a particularly hot day.
I gotta
Uh,
keep you around,
yeah,
man. I'm
man.
telling you.
I think that's what he thought. I need to talk to Bob and like verify this. I'm pretty sure. Um, yeah. So, is there anything you can say about the direction of the next album?
So for me, the EP is called The Florida Effect, and you know, living in Florida, there are few things to complain about, or there are a few things to maybe and especially as a songwriter, you know how we're saying like we gotta let it out. So I'm gonna let how I feel about the state of my state.
Even if you wrote a song about like bleached reefs, because because the
Gotta make it a
ocean's too
banger.
hot, like it's gonna have a really good hook.
A
Yeah,
fish
what
hook.
yeah,
Boom.
perhaps. And stuck in the wrong spot. Yeah, we do have a bleached reef problem, I think,
Mhm.
right now. If you go down to the Keys and jump in real quick, like you'll
Yeah.
see it. But I'm glad that there's stuff to write about. Um, can you talk more about just being a Florida musician? Like, uh, I think sometimes when we really hold up our talent that's homegrown here to the world stage, like sometimes it is a little bit of a surprise that we have some depth coming from here, but we got a bunch. Like, how what do you feel like makes you a Florida musician? And when you're gonna take it across the country, like I guess you're gonna be repping that too.
Well, that's another thing. I sometimes I get, I'm sure all artists get scared or however it is they feel like, um I feel confident in my abilities as a songwriter and performer, but at the same time it's like, you know, taking anything to a different state or taking it it's different. It's something that's new, and change is scary. But being a Florida musician, being like a Miami musician, there is so much good music, like all sorts of genres. Like being a Miami musician to me is really playing for yourself. Is like there's so much good. despite whatever genre it is, there's just a lot of passionate people playing for themselves, really. And that's really what it is, because when you play for other people, then you set yourself up for failure. When you're playing for yourself, it's the passion comes through.
Are there, on that note, are there, I don't know if we have any pictures, I'm gonna scan for them, but are there like venues right now that are really standing out to you? And also, when you do play live, do you bring the whole band? Like, what's your like, who are your go-to musicians? Who's in the lineup?
So
The
for
Timothy
me,
LaRoque lineup.
right, yeah. Well, Timothy LaRoque is definitely front and center on that lineup, just because I can depend on him, and and I can get to him pretty quickly. That's why I do a lot of solo acoustic stuff, because I'm able to, I'm the only person I have to make sure is there and stuff. Sometimes it's hard to coordinate with other people. I have groups. Like I said, I have a band called The Summit, and I have another group, trio called the Def Cats. And the Def Cats is Justin Godbolt and Mario Lemus, and we play all over Miami.
What do the
But I
Deaf Cats
live
sound like?
the Def Cats. So we have music, like I told you, in the vault. Like it'll come out at some point, but it kind of sounds like a mix between Bin and Grant Green.
With lyrics.
With some lyrics. Well, there's difference. Well, see, that's also another thing with my songwriting. I like to keep it varied, even when I have a group. Um, the thing is, the style might be different, but the instrumentation will be the same. So that is kind of what determines that style. But I have one song that is gonna sound like Bill Withers and Stevie Wonder, also. You know.
Yeah, man. Did you? Yeah, there's an upcoming music fest that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it came from like kind of a global thing. It's Make Music
Yes.
Day.
Yes. Make Music Day.
Can you tell me about that? How you're going to participate in it, and
Yeah.
what Make Music Day is going to look like in Miami?
Gotcha. Yeah. So I've been participating in Make Music Miami for the past few years or so, even pre-pandemic. But basically, they organize performances, live performances, where all artists can sign up online to perform at different venues, whether they're makeshift or actual venues. Right now, I'm confirmed for the D.A. Dorsey House, and I will be also at My Mama's, which is a record store and cafe, one of my favorite venues in South Florida. That's in Dania. And I've played, like I told you, I've busked on Lincoln Road for it before, and the Underline. It's basically a huge initiative on like the first day of summer. It's like, come out and enjoy the music, like wherever you are. Come out in the sun. They have them out in the middle of the street or inside of venues. It's really cool, varied, and creative. So I like it a lot.
So when you go out and explore that, like if people look into it, they're just going to see music and different musicians of like all types.
If you step outside, you're bound to hear something. You're
Yeah.
probably within earshot of someone playing locally.
For sure. Now, I know that you confided in me that the
Hmm.
reason why we have the amount of music that we have from you is because you're a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, was that like helpful as a musician? I guess to have the time like away from crowds, but I know a lot of musicians, broadcast themselves online, so it wasn't necessarily a negative experience for all the musicians. There's a lot of
Yeah.
chances for connectivity and stuff like that. Like, can you tell me just about like how the pandemic was development for you and how you can come out with music quicker coming in the future? That's my last thing, dude.
Well, let me just start off with that. When I have nice people like you, Jason, who
Yeah.
are encouraging me like that, it makes me want to drop music.
All
So
right.
I will, just keep being you.
Let's
And
go, dude.
but so the pandemic was was a blessing and kind of like a curse or whatever. For me, I was going really hard with my band, The Summit, doing shows, and after the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, we basically had like tens of 20s of gigs just cut and stopped. So that kind of halted productivity for us as a band, even though it was just gigs. Like we weren't getting together to practice, and things happen in bands. So that was kind of the pandemic was kind of the end of that group. And then from that's when I started up my next project, the Def Cats. And so, like I said, it was like after the pandemic happened, I was like, well, I want to try something else with other people. and I'm happy I did it because I still have both bands, and the Def Cats are actually in the Summit with me now. Like, so
Let's go.
it's basically like
Yeah, Phoenix out of the fire.
a big family. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool, man. Um, we're running out of time, but I really want to know, like, when people see your live show, are they going to get a mix of covered stuff and your originals?
Always.
And but, like, what are some of the venues that we might be able to see you at, like, at any given time upcoming?
I got you.
So yeah, let me know.
I love Luna Star Cafe. That's North Miami. I like Bar Nancy too. I'm there often. I play in Hollywood. Like I said, I was born and raised in the 954 Hollywood 33021. Let's go, baby. So I will be playing at the Cultural Center. I'm starting up as part of a committee. I like to get involved with my community locally and even the Miami community. But if you go on timothylaroque.com or find me on Instagram, Facebook, I always have my stuff posted. So
Go on timothylaroque.com. Guys, check him out. Check Timothy LaRoque on Spotify, and you'll find an amazing EP. And in a couple of months, another EP. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
thank you so much.
And
Jason.
and getting to understand your music and you as a songwriter, man. It was great being with you. Guys, this has been Beach Channel Live. Again, I'm Jason Kesser, exploring arts and culture in Miami. We'll see you next time. Hang in there.